Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to another set of subscriber replays. And these ones are not courtesy of Pansy. I know, everybody, just take a moment, accept that that is a fact of reality and move on. Now, in both of these games we're going to be watching Active Current playing in his STB1. This is a tank that actually, or this, I should say, these games interest me because I own the STB1 and I have done for a long time, but I haven't actually played that many games in it, and most of the games I've played in the machine were from back when it was kind of relatively new to the game. Well, not really new to the game, but it was before they changed it. And the most recent game I played in this thing, which is still a while ago now, I hadn't realised they'd fiddled with it, and so I was like, huh, this is odd. I remember the gun depression being better. And I remember having more alpha damage than this. We're just getting unlucky. And I remember the shell velocity being better, and so on and so forth. So, I haven't played it since then, and it will be interesting to see how this thing pans out. Now, Active is here on the Glacier map, and he is in a nice, unsubtle platoon with some clanmates. We've got Active here in his STB1, and then we have Sunny Day in his Super Conqueror, and Pyrospam, no idea what the rest of that name is, in his T95 FV4201. Conqueror, not Conqueror, Chieftain, Donkerer, Thingamajiggy. Anyway, we're going to focus mainly in on Active for this one. So, what makes the STB1 special? Well, these days, it gets 8 degrees of gun depression, but it gets hydro-pneumatic suspension, a bit like the Swedish tanks, which allows it to increase that, I believe, to something like 15 degrees, which is hilarious. It also gets a 105mm gun in common with a lot of other tier 10 medium tanks, but this one hits for 360 instead of 390, 258 pen, which is pretty standard, but in case you haven't noticed, a really nice rate of fire, giving this tank quite entertaining shell velocity. Quite entertaining DPM. The downside, this is why I was thinking shell velocity, is that it fires AP as standard, making the shell velocity not as good as a bunch of other tier 10 medium tanks. But in the 2 minutes, essentially, that Active has been in this game already, he has racked up 3,288 damage. The STB1 does not mess around. Now, we did actually switch to a heat round there, not entirely sure why. It's not as if the T10 requires heat, but anyway. Now, this is going to be interesting because he's up here on, well, you can see the bit of the map he's on, and this will allow him to get shots at peeps. He's going to reload way before that WZ, and again, really not sure why he's firing heat here. He doesn't need to. The frontal armour of the WZ isn't that thick even on the flat, and you're shooting down onto him there. So, anyway, Active has decided that heat is the order of the day. And Object 257, these guys are going to struggle to get the gun elevation to shoot Active, methinks. But no reason to ooh, Object 430 was able to shoot him. Oh, fair enough. And ML2 bounced off the side of his turret. Was that the friendly ML2 who just, you know what, never mind. Thankfully, let's just focus on the fact that that 430U was firing high explosive like a silly sausage. Oh, having a go at that T10 from long range, but that didn't really work. And up here, with the STB1's really tasty gun depression, this is a really nice position to use. Yeah, blind firing heat there. Interesting. The thing you have to bear in mind with firing heat is that it's not always the right ammunition type for the job. It doesn't do particularly well against spaced armour and things like that, and so generally speaking, unless you need it to penetrate a target, you're probably better off not. But, you know, let's not worry too much about it. For the record, in case you hadn't been paying attention, the scoreline's 8-3. Active's team here is absolutely murderising the enemy team. And we can see on the minimap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we know where all the enemies are or were last spotted, and so Active is using that information to flank all the way around these heavy tanks and farm them up the butt, frankly. He shouldn't get problems with tank destroyers that you would normally have camping the friend, or the enemy in this case, base, because, well, frankly, bad shot there. Because, frankly, we know where they are and they're not there. Active aiming for the rear of that 60 TP there. I would have focused on the Object 430U because the 60 TP doesn't really appear to have noticed that Active's here, or if he has noticed, he's decided he has to deal with someone else anyway. And as it is, the shot goes into the 430U's gun. That deals with the 430U. Now we've got this 257 and the 60 TP here, and you can see that Active doesn't need to load any ammunition type other than good old-fashioned armor piercing to deal, certainly with the 257 frontally, going for the lower front plate on the 60 TP. Excellent, nice shot. Some tanks do still have relative weak spots. Can he get the kill? Yes, he can. Takes one shot from the 257, but he's going to reload way before this 257 has any hope to, and he is dead. That just leaves the UDES 03 on the enemy team, who has gone to a better place. And in 5.5 minutes, that's 6 personal kills, 7,500 damage. That's quite a lot. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. So that ended up being enough for an ace tanker, probably unsurprisingly. Bruiser, duelist, fire for effect, high caliber, tank sniper. That one surprised me because you get that for shooting things at longer range. Caused the highest damage per battle at a distance of at least 300 meters. Then again, I mean, Active did quite a lot of damage regardless, and a top gun for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kills. It was 6 kills. I'm not being stupid. 7,483 damage done, 6 kills, 1,317 base experience for that ace there. His platoon mate there, Pyra, what is his full name? Pyrospam Special Ammo. Oh, it's a beautiful name. In his Donkerer there with 4,000 damage, decent result from him. And rounding out the platoon 1, 2, 3, we've got Sunny Day in his Super Conqueror, 3,150 damage from him. So I think we can safely say the friendly tier 10 platoon there kinda carried that match. No one on the enemy team really put up a significant amount of resistance, if we're going to be honest. 2,000 to 3,000 damage in a tier 10 tank, whilst not completely abysmal, is also nothing to get particularly excited about, and 0 damage, just oh dear. 30 shots fired, 26 hits, 23 pens for that damage count. More than 300 meters, still 2,309 damage, which is more than many of the players in that game did overall. 3 hits received, 2 penned, 1 splash. 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 8 damage, 6 destroyed, 135 assistance damage. That game was much more about the pew-pew than the, oh look, there's Dave. And with a premium account, that was a, 68,000 credit profit, but I should highlight that was with a mission payout. Because Active actually fired a fair few heat rounds in that game, though he didn't need to, his ammunition resupply costs were quite high. You could easily reduce those costs significantly because I don't think a single one of those heat rounds from Active there was necessary. And a respectable amount of experience to boot. And yeah, there we go. That's the game. Let's have a look at the next one. So, second game with Active in his STB1 here then, and I think this is actually the more interesting game. The first one was a bit of fun. You know, some clanmates going out in their top tier tank platoon and just wiping the floor with the enemy in 5 minutes. It's fun, but I think this game's more interesting. So Active is on his own in this one, no clanmates to rely on, and this game's going to be a bit more of a slow burner. So we're here on the Lakeville map. And if we have a quick look at the lineouts on both team, we can say there are 2 pretty beefy artillery on each team, which is something you should always bear in mind. Now, Active is in a fast medium tank. I don't know exactly what equipment he's using, but given that he's using a food consumable, you can see the Onigiri there, I'm willing to bet fairly good money he's probably using a vertical stabilizer, a gun rammer, and probably improved vents. It might be bounty versions of those or something along those lines. The reason I say that is because if you have a good crew on a tank and if you're using a food consumable, you start getting to the point where, although optics can still be useful, people often switch out for vents because they've already got a very good view range and you kind of get slightly diminishing returns. So that would be what I assume. Active, by all means, let us know what equipment setup you're actually using on your STB1. I would definitely be interested because, well, like I said, I own this thing. Now, obviously, since this replay, we've had equipment 2.0. This replay is about a year old at this point, I think, somewhere around about there. And that will slightly change things, but oh, that was a little bit lucky. But we can see here that Active has come along to this centre road here on Lakeville. Now, this is actually a location I used to use, or this sort of play is the sort of thing I used to do at the beginning of my games here on Lakeville. Kind of fell out of favour with it, or it fell out of favour with me, I suppose I should say, as it seemed to become a bit less useful with time, but I've seen some games using these kinds of locations again, and I wonder if I might have to, or might want to, revisit some of the positions along here. Now, Active wasn't actually able to spot out much of the enemy team there. He was a bit too passive if he wanted to get those spots. Like, from the position he was in, he was only ever really going to catch out very incautious heavy tank players, most likely. The issue being that if you push up too far, it can be quite easy to get caught out, and it starts becoming quite a high-risk play. Now, there is a position along this road that you can use if you have a really good turret. And whilst the turret on the STB1 isn't bad, it's not good enough that I would necessarily recommend it in this tank. But if you were in something like, let's say, we're talking tier 10 mediums, I guess, so the 121 or some of the Russian mediums with those really bouncy turrets, there's a rock formation over there you can use where you can be quite aggressive, you can spot out a lot of the enemy team, and all you're exposing essentially is the front of your turret. And that can obviously lead to some quite difficult shots, and the enemy can really struggle to dislodge you. The downside, of course, being if your friendly team lose the town, then things can start going a little bit pear-shaped for you. Oh, hello Mr. Light Tank, how are you today? I think you're about to have a bad day. Right, so this rock location is the sort of rock location I would often use, especially from the other spawn actually. You have some hard cover you can use if you need to, and you can be aggressive enough to get some assistance damage on people, which is nice. You still have to be a little bit careful though, because people who are defending the base can catch you out. And we know there's a Batchat around here from earlier on who's still there. We know the Progetto over there. We know is it a 50 TP, a 60 TP, or what it is? 50 TP, tier 9 Polish heavy tank over there. And Active bounced a shot from the Object 704 earlier on. So we need to be aware of that, you know. 152mm guns can really spoil your day. But then, if you're in a Batchat, so can getting spotted. So, if we have a look at the situation, the scoreline, ooh, nice shot. The scoreline is 3-5. The friendly team are losing here, as Active is able to pick up the kill for no damage in return. Just as I say that, of course, he gets slammed in the side by an E75 TS firing APCR, because, of course, that guy needs to fire APCR. You know, he might have to fight something like a Type 5 Heavy, except the Type 5 Heavy is in the valley. Horses for courses, I guess. Anyway, the friendly team have managed to even it up at 6 kills apiece, but Active is paying attention to his mini-map. If we have a look here, you can see the friendly team have lost the valley. Now, the reason, or I have said in the past, and I will continue to say, that as a general rule of thumb, the valley play is not one I would recommend, is because defending from a valley push is actually relatively straightforward. The capture circle is pretty wide and open, and you can defend that fairly easily. Obviously, a little bit of coordination between teammates is helpful, but you can defend it fairly easily. And if you've got a tank, for example, where Active is, he can really just put a kibosh on any sort of push you try and make through the valley there. Like this 50 TP, what can he do? He's now exposed to flanking shots. The best he can do is just sit there, try to be hull down and get frustrated because he's not really achieving anything. If you are going to play the valley, what you really need to be doing is pushing aggressively through it to come up behind the enemy team who have likely won the town. But in this particular situation, they can't do that because Active responded quickly, frankly. And, I mean, He's already reduced this IS-3 to a one-shot, the 50 TP to a one-shot, the Object 705A to a one-shot. And this, right here, is why I say usually best not to push the valley. And this is only essentially one tank that's holding these guys back. Okay, he's got a little bit of artillery support, but you can have tank destroyers in the back, you know, around where that T-92 is. There is soft cover. Ooh, a nice bounce there. You can have tank destroyers back there, or other people giving you supporting fire. That Active doesn't really have that, but you can have it. And then pushing this becomes even more difficult. Goodbye, Mr. IS-3. So, lovely little bit of work there from Active, and credit should go to the T-92 HMC artillery piece as well. And to be fair to him, the AMX 1390 also came back to try and defend the base. Now, unfortunately, the friendly team are still on the back foot. The scoreline is 9-10, but if we have a little closer look, the enemy team don't actually have a top-tier tank remaining. Their only tier 10 remaining is that Conqueror gun carriage. In fact, their only turreted tanks still in the game, fully traversable turret anyway, are tier 8s. Don't get me wrong, the Object 704 can still be a threat. Like, never write an Object 704 off, but, well, there are ways of dealing with him. Active still has most of his hit points remaining. The only shot he's taken that did damage was that flanking shot from the, tracking shot, lovely. Oh, he's lost his track, oh well. Active actually chooses to repair that, can really punish this guy. Was the flanking shot from the E75 TS earlier on, and between him, Active, and his AMX 1390 buddy just execute that 53 TP. He pushed way ahead of all of his friends. I've no idea what he thought he was going to achieve, but yeah, don't do that. And now it's time for a little bit of revenge. One shot, second shot should finish this guy off. Come on, Active, there we go, and he is done. And the scorelines are 11-11 because the Object 704 actually nails the friendly T-30, who I think was trying to push up the road next to the lake where Active started this match. Now, scorelines are 11-11. We don't know the hit points of the enemy team. Active's asking after the hit points of the Progetto. We know he's taken some damage because Active shot him earlier on. Or was that the other Progetto? Don't know. Object 704 as well. What sort of hit points is he on? Yeah, Object 704 is on full hit points and just executed the artillery, and that T26E5 is probably not long for the world. So we have at least a pretty much full health, or close to full health, Object 704. A one-shot Progetto, 46 there, plus the 2 artillery pieces. So trying to pick up the kills where he can, taking out the Progetto just as the Progetto takes out the friendly Patriot. Shame there that Active wasn't able to save the Patriot. Going for the shot there on the Object 704, that guy can definitely penetrate him, but even firing gold, apparently, he doesn't. But really, gold isn't going to make that much difference in this case. The, that guy died quickly. High DPM tank plus an autoloader, executed. The turret on the STB-1, whilst it's not the most reliable thing in the world, it's not bad. Now, Active is, I think, making a very small mistake here. He's loading high explosive because you load high explosive for artillery, right? Well, not necessarily. His alpha damage is 360 with his armor-piercing rounds. High explosive bumps that up to 440. That's still not enough alpha damage to reliably kill a tier 10 artillery piece, and off the top of my head, I don't think it would do it for a tier 9 artillery piece either. These HE rounds aren't particularly special, 53 penetration, so it's entirely possible he wouldn't penetrate, and the tier 10 artillery, the Conqueror gun carriage, has relatively good armour as it is for an artillery piece, as it is based on the chassis of a heavy tank. And he actually shotguns the light tank in the face. Can Active pick up the kill here though? No. So, this is a relatively minor thing, but in this particular instance, blind shot? No. I think Active should have stuck with the armor piercing. It doesn't actually make a difference in the end, but I think he should have stuck with the armor piercing, because in this case, the high explosive turns 2-shot, otherwise 2-shot artillery pieces into still 2-shot artillery pieces. You essentially gain no benefit. And you have a higher risk of doing basically nothing. So that's worth bearing in mind. Now, how is Active going to deal with this Conqueror? As it turns out, it doesn't really matter because the Conqueror is looking the other way and Active is just able to blat him in the side. Next question, where is that M5355? Hoety hoety hum. Now, my best guess would be up in sort of A2. That is often where artillery tend to hang out. But the reason why I'm a little hesitant is that Active has been over there before. Then again, that was a while ago. The M5355 is a relatively mobile machine. Now, what Active does have to be careful of here, of course, is there are 3 minutes 20 left on this match. You need 100 seconds to cap. Throw in a couple of seconds because the game gives you a grace period, and I can never remember if that counts as not or not. So really, you need around 105 seconds. So 1 minute 40, 1 minute 45 to cap on your own. Yeah. So in this particular situation, we don't know where that M5355 is, and if we go off trying to chase him, well, I mean, that could go either way. I'm guessing at this point. In fact, actually, if we look at the minimap, this guy has never been spotted. He's like a sneaky little ninja. My best guess would be that he's over toward H0. Because there are angles down there that you can use to loop shots over onto people in locations they don't necessarily expect. And you can see here the M5355 is blind firing, and that immediately tells us I was wrong, because to land a shot right on that position, the guy has to be in the top half of the map, and I think Active's making a mistake here. Now, as it is, Active has actually found this artillery piece, but he didn't know that at the time. And let's imagine that artillery piece. Let's say it wasn't an M5355. Let's say it's my tier 10 Batchat 15558 with a turbocharger. I'm faster than an STB1. I can outrun him. What's Active going to do about it? So, he has found the M5355. He has yet to kill him though. Oh, there he is. Takes a hit in the face for his trouble, but now he should be able to kill this guy at leisure. However, despite the fact that it's going to work out, I do think this was a mistake from Active. In an otherwise pretty well played game, just finish him off. There we go. An ammo rack into the bargain. There we go. Lovely carry there from Active in his STB1. And like I said, I think that was a much more interesting game than the first. So let's just finish off by once again having a look at the stats for that one. So that was enough for Ace Tanker. Duh. Bruiser, Demolitionist for the cheeky ammo rack there at the end on the artillery, Duelist, fire for effect, Shellproof, a Pascucci's medal for picking up those 2 artillery kills, High Caliber for lots of damage, Top Gun for those 6 kills, and Radley Walters medal for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kills. Very nicely done indeed. 6,380 damage done, 9 kills, 1,346 base experience. Interesting that on his team, the next highest scoring player was the Type 5 Heavy, who was helping to defend the Valley. It's not that you should never go to the Valley, but that it is difficult to push through, and so generally speaking, the Valley can be defended by a tank or 2. You really don't need to invest a lot in it, and pushing down it often will backfire. Commiserations to the enemy Object 705A, slightly ironically, presumably called the Red Baron. I think that's what he was going for. 4,500 damage and 4 kills from him. Not quite enough to secure the game there. And that's an excellent example of what I'm talking about. He did 4,500 damage in the Valley, and then pushed out of the Valley, and died. Because it's relatively easy to defend from a Valley push. I'll stop going on about it now. 28 shots fired, 24 hits, 23 pens for that damage count. Most of it was from pretty close range. 7 hits received, 1 penned, 5 did not. I think that was a little bit lucky on Active's part, to be fair. There were a couple of quite scary rounds from the Object 704 there that could have shaved off an awful lot of Active's health. But as it is, it worked out, and the STB turret can give you bounces, definitely. 12 enemy vehicles damaged, 9 destroyed, 735 assistance damage, almost 6 kilometers travelled. And with a premium account, that was a 40,000 credit profit, but only because, again, personal mission or something payout to go along with, and lots of experience. So there we go, a nicely played couple of replays there. If I were to critique any element of them, and they were generally well played, so I don't want to make a big thing of this, but I would say one, perhaps more careful choice of one's ammunition. Heat is great in the right situation, but can backfire. High explosive is quite highly situational, and just because you're facing artillery, that doesn't necessarily make your HE the right ammo choice to use. And don't take artillery for granted. Right at the end there, if that M53-55 had been further away, had ran away sooner, or been in a faster machine, like I mentioned, the Batchat, Active could have spent the rest of the game trying to chase the artillery down and thrown the win away there, because the win was his to take. I personally didn't like that play at the end. I think it would have been much safer and more sensible to cap out, personally, with that short amount of time left on the match. But it worked out in the end. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed those replays. I certainly did. If you wish to submit your own replay to yours truly, there should be a link in the video description to Discord. If you upload your replay to whatreplays.com and send the URL to me in the appropriate channel on Discord, I shall take a look. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had fun. Maybe even learned something. Who knows? The STB-1 is looking like it's a very nice medium tank. I might have to go and try mine out again at some point. And regardless, as ever, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.